trying to get an airstrike over on that opposite side.
Hey everyone, Tom from the Airsoft headquarters here. And today's gonna be a little bit shorter of a video because I would like to take you guys along a road with me in order to do some type of scientific evaluation. The thought that I've had the last couple of years is that a BB, because it's a plastic ball bearing going through a smooth bore at the same amount of kinetic energy, the same amount of speed, my theory is that a BB actually will go about the same distance semi-regardless of velocity. Now, I'm not talking like 300 FPS versus 450 FPS. We know that's a world of a difference. I'm more along the lines of talking about like a 350 FPS gun versus a 400 FPS gun. And I kind of have a mix of guns here with me. I have a shorter 360 FPS gun that is I think a 6-inch inner barrel. I have a 400 FPS gun with a 10-inch inner barrel. And then I have a 330 FPS gun with a 12.5-inch inner barrel. I'm gonna show you the guns that I have back behind me. So it's a little bit of a mix, a little bit of amalgamation of velocities and what they're shooting at. Excuse me, I burped. So my initial thought is, due to the setups that we have, we're gonna see about the same point of shot to point of impact from where the camera is sitting to the target's way back there. So what's gonna happen is I have one camera here, one camera there. You guys are gonna see me shoot, and then we have another camera pointing towards the BB. And I'm gonna try, roughly in post, try to evaluate if one gun is shooting faster as far as getting a BB from point A to point B. And then we'll go out even farther, and I'm gonna have like an empty canister that's gonna have an audible ding to it every time I hit it. So we're gonna go out even farther, about 200 feet, and see point of aim versus point of impact, and see what the speeds are from there, or at least how accurately and consistently we can hit that. So come along the journey with me. So these are the guns that I have here with me today. We have a G&G Wild Hog AEG 7-inch, part of the GC series of rifle systems with a 7.4 volt LiPo. We also have the VFC Avalon M4 SOP mod shooting 400 feet per second with the 10-inch barrel. I took the barrel extension off, shooting 11.1 volt lithium ions. And then we have a custom that I built for Carl down here at the Airsoft Arena. The base is a Cybergun Mark 18 Block 2 with that longer length of Daniel Defense style of outer barrel. He does have a tight bore inner barrel, I forget the name of that, a Max model hop-up unit, and then I also have a Kythera mechanical system paired with a UGS stock. So this guy is shooting 300 feet per second, and all of the guns are gonna be shooting the same PTS magazine with a 0.28 gram BB. That is what we have in there. And just for the record, the targets way down there are 100 feet away. So let's get right into it. Okay, so first up we have the G&G 360 FPS 7.4 LiPo 0.28 gram BBs, about a 6-inch barrel. And again, I do want to make it absolutely clear that the voltage of battery is not going to dictate the velocity at which these are shooting. The battery is going to dictate how fast the gearbox is going to turn over. All right, so for this guy, I'm going to aim for the very top one. And that was 5 total shots. Okay, I'm going to immediately transition for the M4 SOP mod, shooting just over 400 feet per second, about 410, 415. Completely stock, and 11.1 lithium ion, 0.28 gram BBs. This guy was having a little bit of a hop-up issue, so I'm going to try for the middle. I'm going to try really hard. I really hope that those were on target. And then we have the Kythera custom build that I did for Carl. A Mark 18 14-inch barrel, tight bore, max hop-up unit, larger air cylinder system in order to propel the BB ideally to the target with a little bit more force. So I'm gonna shoot off to the side here real quick. Make sure that all the BBs are lined up. And then he's got this whack optic on here. So I think I'm gonna try. All right, I'm gonna aim off to the side here, see where these are going. Way off. Carl, you gotta fix that shit. All right, flashlight. Okay, I can only see where those are going now. Okay, shoot. Okay, 6 total shots, because I'm pretty sure I missed the very first one. And we're just going to empty all those out as well. Okay, now we're in safe. So I'm gonna grab you guys and we'll go over and evaluate everything. Okay, so quick valuation. This was supposed to be the G&G target. It looks like the majority of the BBs hit, and we did have one in the center, but a bunch more floating off to the side here. This was supposed to be the M4 SOPMOD target, and there was a BB that did hit in the center. Perfect. We also, this is the Kythera target. There is a BB stuck inside of this cardboard here. We had no impacts on the actual center target, and I'm noticing a bunch of BB impacts on the bottom part of the middle target. So, while the Kythera was impacting these targets, I don't think it was nearly as consistent as the rest of these guys. But again, I'm gonna say that that is up to the whack optic that Carl has installed. Okay, so I realized something after I finished that test. With the microphone system that we're utilizing to record these videos, I can actually have 2 transmitters, which are these guys, the little lavaliers, and 1 receiver, which means there's 1 microphone here, there's 1 microphone down there. So instead of trying to rely on the echo effect within the camera systems, we now can get a more accurate sound sample from the point A to point B. Following me? So we're gonna redo everything real quick. Kythera, I already told you everything. Hit the frickin' target. Good enough. And for SOPMOD, I already told you everything. Wild hog, I already told you everything. Okay, I think that's good enough. So that is our 2 timing tests at 100 feet. We're gonna be able to break those down in post-editing. Stay tuned for those results in the studio.
Hi everyone, welcome to the studio. So it's been several days later. As you can probably tell, got a little bit of an issue going on. It's a little sickness. But don't worry, tested, it's not the coof. So, we allowed a couple days in order to get a little bit better, and despite how I'm currently sounding, you should have seen me in the last several days. That was significantly worse. But I want to make sure I can get some scheduled content for you guys, so let's roll with it. First of all, I was super shocked as to the results that we found during that timing sequence. At only 100 feet, there wasn't a whole lot of timing difference between the different velocities and the different inner barrels. So it was a little bit harder to discern what that actually was. But breaking it down, and yes, I did a proper timing setup where I have 60 frames per second and had the time code down at the bottom right so I could get as accurate of a time down to 1/60th of a second. So that being said, I was really shocked, first of all, about how little timing difference there was between the different velocities at only 100 feet. So the GC rifle shooting right at the middle was 0.567 seconds average from point of shot to point of impact. Less than or about a half of a second as far as that time from point A to point B. Then we shot the SOP mod. Granted that it was a little over 400 feet per second, so it was really no surprise that it also had a faster time from point A to point B. 0.473 seconds as far as the average. So while looking at that number, it seems like a big number, but we also have to consider that this is, what was that, 9/100ths of a second? So not a whole lot of time. I can't even really conceive what 9/100ths of a second would actually cut down into. But if you really think about it, 9/100th of a second, that's like no time at all. That's faster than snapping my fingers. But the Kythera really shocked me. Of the average that we collected, it was 0.5 seconds. So that's half of a second. That's right in between the GC rifle and the SOP mod. So being the softest shooting at 330 feet per second, but also being able to pair with that longer inner barrel for the most amount of air efficiency, also proves, from what we've been saying here, that if you get that air efficiency or that air volume efficiency to be as equal as possible, you're gonna get some really cool results. And that's kind of what we've broken down here. So ignore the fucking people outside. So breaking that down even further, the fastest shooting rifle as far as time was the SOP mod. Second was the Kythera, and the slowest was the GC rifle. So between the SOP mod and the Kythera, that's 300th of a second. From 330 to 360, 300th of a second. So I think that also proves to the fact that we can also take indoor-based rifles that, if they are tuned properly, have really good air efficiency, they can definitely be utilized outdoors. At a distance of 100 feet, that's the timing breakdown. So really, really, really cool to see that. So that goes and proves a couple of things. One, if you get your indoor gun, and I want to bring up the fact that there's a difference of 90 feet per second. Kythera 330 feet per second, SOP mod 420 feet per second. That's a very big gap. So if you have your gun tuned properly, you have really good air volume efficiency, you can get stellar results. And then on the other side of things, you can take your indoor gun and you can play with it outdoors, as we have seen here. Now that is going a distance of 100 feet. Let's take a look at what 200 feet would look like.
So next part, that is our intended target. That little bin alleyway, little bucket. And where we're gonna be shooting from is way down there towards the tip of my finger. You see that blue and orange graffiti? that's where we're going to be shooting from. So what's going to happen is at that 200 feet, we're going to try to impact this bin anywhere. We're going to take a secondary microphone that I have here, put it nice and close, and I really like that idea. So just like with the other test, we've got the two microphones. One is going to be right here, so it'll listen when we actually impact this tin. The other one is going to be on my person, the one I'm speaking to you guys through, so that way we can really see the amount of time from the shot from me to the point of impact here. And actually, I'm gonna put this on the inside, that way I don't accidentally shoot it. All right, let's go shoot. Okay, here we go. Starting with the G&G Wild Hog, just trying to get it to hit. That for sure was a hit. Okay, emptied that off to the side. And again, that was 360 feet per second, so right in the middle there. Here we have the M4 Satmod for over 400 feet per second. First shot, what can I say? BFC Avalons all the way. And third, shooting the slowest, but here's a couple things that it has going for it. Being HPA, it has an abundance of air voluming in order to help get that BB to the target with a little bit more kinetic energy, and it's an elongated inner barrel. Now, he's got this shit hop up, or this shit optic, so we're going to continue to use laser and flashlight. Here we go. I think I'm hearing it. So in post, we're gonna evaluate just how much time it takes between those. I think that this, just from what I could hear, the Kythera being a lower velocity actually took less time than 360 feet per second. I don't know. Again, that's based on my current hearing. I'm sure in post, in studio, I'll be able to tell you exactly what's happening. So I will see you guys there.
So looking at the results from the 200 shot test, that was also equally as fascinating. I mean, breaking down that timing sequence as well, and having that time card down the very bottom right for you guys, we can see that while the time from point A to point B has elongated, the difference in time between the different models has remained consistent. Well, it doubles in time, but it's like the same consistent ratio. So looking back at the 100 foot, the fastest was the Satmod, the second fastest was the Kythera, the slowest was the GC rifle. That has remained the same. So we have, at the 200 foot test, we have the Satmod again, and then we have the Kythera again, and then we have the GC rifle again. But looking at the difference in that time gap from the fastest to the middle to the slowest, the timing essentially has doubled. So the ratio of time has remained consistent regardless of doubling that distance. And I think what's equally as interesting is considering the 0.28 gram, while not being the heaviest, but also nothing to scoff at, especially compared to the GC rifle, that 6-inch inner barrel, I would have definitely assumed that that would have had a very, very fast, like slowdown speed right past 100 feet. But I'm surprised that the GC rifle was able to throw that 200 feet really consistently. Truck. So this video's test has definitely opened my eyes as far as what is possibly going on in the background. And I think bringing this to your guys' attention, maybe will help you guys grow and experiment as well and kind of be aware as to what's happening on the field around you. So for a future video, I want to compare a longer length Kythera to a shorter length Kythera. So I built Carl's Kythera. That is the 14-inch inner barrel, the Block 2 that I was shooting. But then I have my Kythera build in the 416A5. I don't know if you guys can see that there. But that's a shorter shorter inner barrel. I think that's a 10-inch, a 9 or 10-inch inner barrel. But that's also a stock inner barrel. Carl's was a Type 4. That's a 6.05. So standard size. So I would be really interested to see the difference in timing and breakdown of accuracy and consistency at the 100-200 foot from a longer length Kythera, which HPA engines usually have a higher air voluming system naturally built into them compared to the shorter system, and if they can do different weights at different distances and what the results of that would be. I'd like to break that down in another video, but I would also like to do more testing on the different air voluming systems, such as the QRF versus the T10 versus my Block 2. Those are all going to be a full size cylinder from KWA, so we know that those are going to be very, very consistent as far as the internal air voluming system. The QRF being a 6-inch, T10 being a 10-inch, and the QRF being a 14-inch. There we can have the same consistent AEG internal air volumes compared to the different barrel lengths. I'd be super fascinated to see as to what the results of that would be. But I also want to experiment as to the different types of cuts of cylinder systems. So I broke down in a previous video with air voluming systems that the air cylinder, I think I conveniently have one over here, this guy. So this is your cylinder. Oh, I got cobwebs all over this. Ugh. So this is a air cylinder. You'll notice that there is a window cut into the side here, and that is to compensate for usually some higher speed builds that need extra air inside of the cylinder in order to compensate for the higher rate of fire, etc., 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 but also to help make the air volume more efficient to the outer barrel, or to the inner barrel, excuse me. So the QRF being a full-size cylinder, the Nemesis X9 having that window way up to the front here, and the Air P9 having a window in a third position. And I was looking at the Nemesis X9. I was shocked that the window went all the way halfway to, was like halfway in the length of the cylinder. So we've got multiple different cut windows in that, you know, is usually expressed with the Type A, Type B, Type C, Type D, etc., etc., etc. So looking at the same barrel length, but different air voluming systems, I think would be also equally as interesting. But enough rambling. What was the purpose of today's video? Well, ultimately it was to prove the fact that indoor-based guns can be effective and efficient within an outdoor play system. Kind of making a point that you don't have to have just an outdoor gun and then having a separate gun just for indoors. And I'm talking just dedicated for velocity. Certain players are going to have different build setups to compensate for different barrel lengths or different magazine setups. I'm not talking about that. For rifle systems that are the same barrel length, but one is set at 400 feet per second and one set at 350 to get as close to those indoor limits and outdoor limits as possible. We have seen now that the difference is really, really, really negligible. If you can build it to be efficient, build it to be a really good build, then it's going to work really well for you. That's ultimately the result or the purpose of today's video. That's why I want to show you guys that most of my guns back behind me are set for indoors, primarily because that's where I play most often whenever I do get a free weekend day to go and play. but also because it's just way more easy on my side of the house in order to just have a set spring system that allows me to go back and forth between indoor and outdoor. So not having to have one gun set for outdoor or one gun set for indoor. And I'm coming from a background where I definitely prefer my AEGs, so being able to make these videos in order to express, while HPA is definitely a method in order to compensate for the different velocities, AEG systems can be proven to be hyper efficient and really high performance builds if you are able to build them correctly. And I'm not saying like dumping $1,000+ like if you just get the proper spring, the proper inner barrel, proper motor, good shim job, you can make those into just monsters by themselves. Maybe that's a video that we'll present to you guys. Stay tuned for that. Anyway, that's all I have for you guys. If you have any further questions about these or any other suggestions about testing videos, put them down into the comments section below. I'll do my best to get to those questions whenever I can. But with that, you guys take care, stay safe, stay positive, and stay clean. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.